All right, so I'm live, and I was going to do an announced live feed, but what I thought I would do is just do an experiment and make sure I have all of this figured out from a technology standpoint. And then once I'm comfortable with it, which should be after this session, then I'll actually be able to make announce live feeds when I'm going to be working on larger studio paintings. So I will. I'm trying to figure out how to see my live feed on my own channel. So I can. Oh, it's right here. Cool. All right, so I'm good there, and now I got to turn down the volume on this because I don't want to be hearing that double. So if you're joining in, again, this is a test run, and hopefully you can hang out for a while and kind of help me work through this by providing some feedback and stuff. So I can see what I'm feeding on the iPad. I'm actually recording on my iPhone, and so now I'm just trying to see where the chat is, which I don't see yet. Let's see. Site. Yeah, so now you can see why I decided to do it this way, because I don't have it figured out. So I'm trying to find the chat so that I can see who's on board here, and then I'll get going. Maybe I have to look at it in the portrait view. All right, so I can see that there are two people watching, but I have no I have no ability to see the chat. So maybe I can see the chat up here. All messages reviewed. Live chat. Chat viewing options. Live chat. All right, so this is where I wish I could see who was there so I can figure out this chat thing. All right, so. All right, so I have live chat on, and let's see what happens here. Okay, so I can at least see myself. That's a good thing. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to the photo that I'm going to be working on, and I'll actually see if I can't show you a picture of it. This is some of the business I have to work out, but this is a picture I took when I was in North Carolina, and I really like this barn on this hill here, and it has some nice rust kind of along the bottom edge. I'm sure the water's probably got a lot of iron in it and stuff, and then there's kind of this brownish red dirt that flows down here, and I think what I'm going to do is actually bring that kind of up and across the scene here. But anyway, I just wanted to show you what I have there. So I'm gonna get a sketch going and see if we can get this drawn out, and then once I do that, I'll go back and I'll take another glance at the chat and see how we're doing. Okay. So there are a couple of reference points here that I want to keep track of, and just so you know, too, my goal is to do this for 1 hour, and when I announce it again, the next time I'm going to try and do the same, and just kind of do these live feeds in the studio for an hour. So the reference points in this particular painting that I want to track is I want to track this third right here, and then I want to track. I don't want to lose track of where the middle of the painting is. So here's the middle of that third, and then because what I don't want to do is I don't want to end up with anything's kind of right in the middle, and then right here is kind of the middle of my canvas. So I'm going to track that. And then I want to track the middle of this side, because to get some variety in the painting, when I start putting the shapes in here, I want to make sure that that the sky and the ground are not the same size, and I want to make sure that the this distance of space here is different from some of the other shapes, so there's no repetitive sizes of fields of color. So in general, what this painting is going to have is we have a lot of sky up here, and then the roof of the barn, but this particular point of the barn right here, which is the peak, I want that to be up on this just above this third mark, and I want it to and then it's going to go back like this, and from before, I like to kind of line up my brush and kind of drag through it to get those lines. So that would be the peak of the barn and the point where it meets the roof right there. And if it needs just a touch more drama, then I can just raise that point up just a little bit. And so the back half of the barn, which I want to be just slightly longer, and since I have a photo in front of me, I can actually sort of measure, and this is kind of sight sizing with a photograph, which is kind of strange, but sight sizing is something that you do for real when you're out in the field. You kind of hold up your brush and you measure something, and then you compare it to something else, so you can keep track of what the length of different things are. So, but in this particular case, I can just use it right here on the photo. So, so that's the kind of the length of the forward barn, and then the back barn. When you glance at the photo, you sort of feel like this part of the barn is longer than this part, and I think it's because you see less of the roof, so it kind of feels like it's a little more foreshortened and a little bit longer. So, but in reality, it's actually, the back part is actually a little bit shorter by maybe a quarter. So I've got this length of the front roof here, and so the second one, so I actually sort of nailed that spot, actually nailed that right on the first time, which is kind of crazy, but that doesn't always happen. So, so this roof line right here, I'm just going to put this in first, and so I'm kind of picking the angle of that. And again, I just use my brush as a reference, and I just lay it down like that, and then I'm going to match that angle over here, and I'm going to lay this one in like that. And then since the roof is actually going back in perspective into the distance, it's actually going to the same vanishing point that this one's going to. which if you could see the horizon, it would be way out here by my bookshelf. But in this particular case, you can't really see it. So, but I'm gonna sort of assume sort of where that would be, and then I'll kind of drag this one through. And we'll correct these as we go. That's probably more like that. All right. All right, give me 1 second here. Hop back out. And I just wanted to check real quick and see if anyone had said anything in the chat here. So, all right, it looks like maybe I was the only one. So, or I haven't figured out how to see it. So anyway, so let's get this one in here. Let me go back to my photo. All right, so the space that I've taken for the length of this. So if I take the known distance of the roof line, and then I compare that to the known distance of the roof here, it's about 1/3. So so really the roof should be maybe just slightly narrower here than it is in reality there. So I'm just going to put another line in here. And the good thing is you can always just kind of take a paper towel and do some erasing. So I'll just get a little. All right. All right, so then this line is just, this first vertical is just a little bit back of here. And again, it's important that I know what size that is in relation to this known here, and it's about 1/3 of the length of this. So it's going to be somewhere in here lengthwise. So it's going to come down to about right here, right there, and which accounts for that white kind of rusty section of the bottom here. Now this is this barn is actually shaped a little bit differently. The back roof line is the back roof is actually smaller than the front roof, so so you can't really follow. It doesn't follow like if I was putting this in perspective, you know, that the back roof line would be something like, or this line, this point to the next point over here would be a lot more like this, but because it's a shorter roof, it actually comes down pretty steep angle, and it is about half the distance of this roof, so so it's about there, and then the vertical coming off of that goes all the way up there, and it actually comes down quite a bit here, because this line, I can match the angle, you know, since I have the photograph, but in reality I would be lining up my brush with the lines out in the distance as I look at them, and then that would give me my angle. But when you're doing from a photograph, it's a lot easier. So so it's at an angle about like this. So this line comes through here, and then this line, this gets foreshortened a little bit going back this way. So that's going to come through like that, and then this one here, this one comes up the hill, And I can just use my brush here and drag it through like so, just to get that line in there. And then the same with this one here. And then this vertical is right out by the point, but the barn really continues on, but it sort of steps up. So this part is a little bit higher here, and that's kind of the white part, and it's going back to that same vanishing point that all this is going to, again, way over here by my bookshelf. So it's going to be something like this. And then by that same distance, that barn comes up. Let me get a little more color here. That barn comes up. This part of the barn top actually sticks out past, and then this one goes straight through here. And then we can't see a lot of this because we got a big tree that's right here, and then but this kind of rust just kind of runs up this up the side of this white here. So it's a lot of dirt and rusty concrete and stuff that's down in here, and then we've got this big tree right here, so I can see a little bit of this white line, but not a whole lot. And then so this barn comes up to here, and then this line matches as it comes this roof line, so it follows right on through. And the point of that one is of this one right here. This point right here is in line with this ridge, so I can use this point right here as a reference, and as long as I go straight up, I can find where that point is. So it was actually just about where I had it. And then again, this roof line is going to come through and go to that same distant vanishing point over there. So come through like that, and then this roof line does the same. Sinks over just a touch. And then the one in the back matches this one. So I pick up this line, bring it over, and so it's going to be like that. That's a lot of crimson. All right, so this line matches this line. All right, so I can already tell you that next time I will have a color printed version of this in front of me so that I can actually look at the monitor, use this as a monitor and see what's happening over here. So, but I will just take a quick look. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to set that down, and we'll get some more elements in here. One of the I sort of pushed this down a little bit based on my photograph, mainly because I wanted to get this space a little larger than this space. So really I've got three different sizes here. You know, I've got basically the barn shape, I've got the grass shape down here, which is a little bit smaller, and then I've got the sky shape, which is quite a bit larger, and then this space over here is slightly different than this one. So this distance here is a little bit different than this one. And excuse me, what I'm trying to do is just create some visual, just some differentiation in shapes and space, because it just makes a more interesting painting. If you have a lot of the same size shapes and spaces, it just doesn't work out. So, all right, so let's throw this in here, and then we'll get a couple more of these elements into the painting. This was wrong because this roof actually extends pretty far out in front of the of this point here, so I just have to bring that out a little bit, and then this part here is going to actually extend out a little bit, and so this has to come out further. So that so we've got a big overhang here that I wasn't really paying attention to, but we got it now. So all right. You know, I was just thinking that this would actually be kind of a fun paint along. So I know you know, I mentioned Sarah in one of my Tuesday drives. That's what she does on Twitch. She does paint alongs and things like that, and this one is kind of reminds me of that. All right, so I'll just throw in a couple more elements here so we don't lose track of them, and that is that this ground from this point on is kind of this dirty clay sort of area here, comes down at this sort of an angle off the end of this bank here, and then it kind of levels out. And I don't want to dive into the corner of the painting here, so I want to be careful not to do that, because that wouldn't be very good. So so I'm going to kind of just flatten that out right down here, and it's going to go off this way, and then it comes up here, and then this grass that comes around kind of behind the barn comes down at sort of a steep angle, and then right across here is actually what looks like a retaining wall that sort of sits in here, and it's just kind of a broken down retaining wall. It's got it's actually one of the darkest things I can see in the whole painting, but in the whole picture. And again, painting from a photograph, you know, I'm not trying to actually paint the photograph. I'm trying to sort of making an attempt to interpret what I see, and not necessarily paint it. So then there's like some logs that come across here and roll down in here, and that just adds some other elements. There's like a fence here that's up in this area, which is a detail we'll capture here later, and hopefully you're picking up the volume okay on the iPhone. I'm not positive, so obviously I'll hear it back when on the replay, but in general, I don't know why I'm built like this, but I just want you to have a good experience. So and I tend to I process everything, and sometimes I really tend to overthink things, and but it really is that you know, I just want to produce quality videos for you, and you know, I intentionally did this live stream unannounced, just because I knew just a few people would pop in, and hopefully it's my my regular group that comments a lot, and you'll have a lot of grace for me. So I wasn't afraid to do it in that respect. So all right, we'll continue on here. All right, so this one didn't extend much in front. This one did. Got the white there. There is this this tree right here. Is actually quite large, and it's going to come. It leans right up this way, and the main trunk comes all the way up to about this part of the painting here, and sort of leans back in, and then when it gets to the bottom here, it really kind of spreads out. So it's just going to come down, and then it's going to really chase toward this corner here, and it sits below the corner of the barn. So and it comes in here, this way, and then it's got another major part of the trunk that comes down that way, and really just kind of putting this in just for reference for now, because we have a lot of sky and things like that to go in. It's got some trunk coming up there. Let me mix up a nice kind of gray mix here. It's got a major branch that's just above the roof line here that chases off this way, curves back a little bit, and then kind of up and again, I don't want to chase to this corner, so I'm going to edit this one and bring it up this way, so it's not going right into the corner of the painting. And that's pretty sizable piece of lumber there, so so that comes in that way. There are some smaller branches that come out this way, and way over to the center of this particular this barn over here, because this is one of the biggest trees in the whole painting. So all right, let's go that way, and then right off the side over here, and I don't want to get too close to the edge of the painting, so I'm going to kind of keep it in a little bit close, but it basically runs. It's a very straight tree. I'm not quite sure what it was, but I'm guessing it's probably a huge maple or something. But just the main trunk of it kind of comes into here, and it too sits right at the base of that barn. And then there are some there's some lumber and stuff that just sort of sits right in here, which is a really cool directional cue back into this painting. And where this brown dirt comes across here, I'm actually going to make a cut into this, so that some of this dirt that comes this way is actually going to turn around and come this way. So I think this will help actually lead you into the painting a little nicer. So so this piece here is going to actually come in here, and then we'll just pull a little trail off of here. And it also gives us some kind of shows us that that we're working our way up this hill and all that jazz. So all right, so the next element, before I put this other big tree in here, is there's a kind of a distant hill here that just runs right up and over this way, and it's kind of some bright green grass that's in the very distance, and then it has some trees that are below this level, because I can see a little bit of sky through there, but they sort of grow as they work up this hill, and they just kind of fall in here, and then right here they fall off completely, and then it's just blue sky out to the side. Now this is where editing comes in, and we have to make an edit here, because the thing that we want to edit, I'm not sure what, so far I'm the only person I can see in the actual, who's actually said something on chat, but I'll have to figure that out. So, anyway. So, if I just leave this blue out here, that's really not going to make a whole lot of sense. So I'm actually going to kind of cut these trees in here. And so it's going to end here, basically. And then I'm going to make the gap right here, which kind of gives you a place to go, instead of just sort of wandering out into this field and then having this big wall in front of you. Now I don't have any problem. Go ahead and I can just run these trees right up, have them follow this hillside, and then this tree here can just kind of hang out over there. And I'm going to put a gap right there. And then there is a tree, another large tree on this side of the painting that comes from, it's quite a bit lower, so it sits down in here. This hillside comes down a little bit shallower back there. Let me just see about one thing here. All right, cool. All right. But this particular tree, I'm going to bring it from down here kind of up into the painting this way. So it actually doesn't quite lean like this at the moment, but I'm gonna make it lean in just to keep from pulling you completely off this edge right here. So that one sits down in here, and it leans out in reality, and I'm just taking the liberty to I'm trying to keep off this edge too much. There's a big branch here that just cuts right off the canvas that way, and this is a really tall tree, so again it stretches out from these lower branches right out over the barn here, and then in the background there's some other trees we'll put in here. So we got this one. This trunk goes this way, and it's got another major trunk that kind of recedes off into the distance, or into the back, not off into the distance. It is distance compared to this one, but it's going back there. All right, so let me go here. Oh, some of these reds up here are going to cause me all kind of trouble when I start putting in the sky, but I'll deal with that in a second. So that helps support the fact that we were going downhill here, and there's another tree that's back in here that just has some branches that come up in here. But I'm gonna wait to cut those in until we actually get some color on here. So, all right, so let me clean this up. We'll get some of that going. All right. All right, cool. Okay, so for the sky, I'm going to use a cobalt, kind of a cobalt blue, and I'm going to actually start there. It's darker in here, and if I don't get some of this red out of here, it's probably going to cause me some major problems. So as long as I know where the major trunks are in there, I can deal with those. Kind of comes down, leads you up through. I'm just sort of in my mind right now, I'm just sort of walking through the painting. So Okay, so let's do some just really quick washes here. Let's see what. And just using a cobalt blue hue, but I'm going a little bit toward the violet side, mainly because of the particular type of day this was. And this will help set the tone for some of the other values in here. So so I want the darkest part of this just to run right up through here, and I don't have to worry too much about retaining really any of this. I'll just keep us just a little bit of a reference point of some of those branches. And you can see that I'm a scrubber, so that's kind of the way I always start. My painting. So okay. And the goal for today, by the way, was just to I just want to get this kind of blocked in, and then the next time we do a live feed, then we'll be able to continue from the block in and starting to refine more darks and lights. All right. So, again, I'm making no attempt to really retain any of these branches. I'm just kind of I'll leave just enough marks where I can kind of see where they are, just so I don't have to paint over a lot of sky. This is very loose paint, which loose to me means that it just has a lot of thinner in it. So since I'm just basically trying to cover the canvas at this point with a wash, I'll get some more here. I didn't know if you saw what I did there. I actually kind of corrected this line because it was going downhill this way when in reality it should be headed over here to this vanishing point. So I just did that kind of intuitively. I just sort of made a little correction like that with the edge of the brush. So I'll just drag this in here for now. right, just a little more sky here to fill in, and again, it's kind of getting toward the where some of the light source was from. So I'm just going to maybe warm a little bit of this up on this side. There were some kind of clouds that were lingering back in here, and the majority of the blue is actually sort of in the middle. So so I'm just adding a little warmth to that, and all I did was just barely touch the cad yellow here to just put a touch of warmth in. Not too much, and we'll adjust it here in a minute. We're going to have a stronger gradation when we're done from light to dark here, but again, we're just trying to cover this big orange canvas right now. So all right, so it's important that this line be cut properly. So I'm just going to cut right through everything, just to make sure that line is that I can keep that line intact. So have no problem with the fact that I cut right through the tree. It's actually better that way. So okay. So right in behind here. Actually, before I do that, I think I'm going to go ahead and do this rooftop. And the good thing about having it on your iPad is, you know, when I look at the picture, it's sort of saying that this rooftop is actually a lighter value than the sky, and so I want to be conscious of that. But you know, our eyes trick us a lot when we're looking at values. So the beauty of having it on here, even though next time I'm definitely going to have it on a piece of paper, because then I don't have to switch back and forth between the monitor and the other. But I'm going to do an edit real quick. Because I want to see exactly where that sits in the value range, and let me show you that. So the sky in this area is definitely a lighter value. Whoops, sorry. The sky in this area is definitely a lighter value than the roof, but the blue in this area is a darker value for sure than the roof, and then over here it gets a little bit light. You can clearly see how the whole foreground here is very secondary to the sky. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of block in this color for the roof, and I'm going to keep it lighter than the sky value that I currently have, because as we move along, we're going to get more white and cloud colors in these areas. And then I can easily block in the ground at a little bit darker value because it is a flat plane than the roof. So I do this frequently. I mean, the ability to all right, let me get off of the. I didn't mean to save that the way it was. So today's kind of rainy and cloudy outside, so that's why it was a perfect day to do a live feed. So it's sort of like April. What we should have had in April has now been in May, and I don't know what happened. I mean, volcanoes are erupting and something changed. I don't know. Anyway, let's go back to original color here. All right. Now the rooftops are kind of a I'm gonna describe them as a light gray. So sort of a, I mean, obviously they were silver, so um, uh, oh, hey Mary, finally I saw a comment here, which is nice to know that that's actually working. Yeah, I am using some actually quite a bit of medium in this, but it's not really what I would say is a medium. I'm just using a lot of thinner in the paint at this point, and I'm testing out because I haven't made the jump to Gamsol indoors yet. Although I mean outdoors, I just use for those of you who've seen some of my equipment videos, you know that I use just a odorless mineral spirits, and which is fine outdoors. I mean, it's okay, but in the confines of my studio here, it actually can become overwhelming if you're using a lot of it. And so I'm just testing this out and have been for like a couple weeks now. But it's actually a green odorless mineral spirits, and it actually comes out of the bottle in sort of milky white, and but it is truly very odorless. So which is really nice for indoors. But I mean, eventually I'm probably gonna just make the jump to Gamsol and call it good. But I'll see how this works out. And so far, it cleans the brush nice and has very low odor. And it says it doesn't put off anything harmful. And but who knows about that, right? So I'm gonna take some Cad Orange. And I'm going to mix in some French ultramarine. So I'm mixing those two colors, and I'm trying to get a nice gray. And I didn't even bother cleaning my brush because the you know, the roof being kind of tin and everything, it's actually going to have a lot of the sky color in it. So the goal here is to have a value lighter than this value kind of in this area, but you can already see that I'm really close here to actually having the same value. I think I'm in the gray range that I was shooting for, but the value is not where we want it. So I'm going to grab some more titanium white here and mix that into that gray. And I think that is probably much better. So because eventually I'll probably create a counter change right here anyway, where the sky is darker, where the cloud shape will help me define a darker sky in this area, and then when we get to the darker areas, the lighter areas, then I can actually work the opposite on that. So I think that may be close. So I'm just going to go with that. I'll get a little more thinner in that because I'm just trying to create a wash, and we'll see what happens there. Mary, if you weren't here from the beginning, I mentioned that I did today as a non-announced live feed, mainly because I just wanted to kind of test this out, knowing that just some of my regulars would pop in. And so I will schedule these from now on so everyone is aware when they're happening. But for today, I knew it was just going to be me trying to figure it out. So, but for those of you who popped in, I really do appreciate it. Let's get this going here. I'm just trying to keep that gray, and actually I'm going to scrub it this way because that's kind of the direction that this goes. Right, sorry, my phone shut off there. So I might have dropped out for a minute. I'm not really sure what happened there, but the timer says 51 minutes and 20 seconds. So we got just a little bit longer on this session. So let's see. Yeah. So I can kind of work around these trees, but I think at first I'm just going to work right through them. All right. Now with the time I have left, I think I'll just drop in just a couple more of the large shapes. I'm going to take some Viridian, and I'm going to mix some cad yellow with it, which is going to give me sort of a very bright, unrealistic green. But I'm going to actually go back in with a bit of cad orange, which is going to tone that down. And it's going to, what I'm shooting for, and I'll grab a little of its complement, which is a little bit of the alizarin crimson. And I just want to get the tone of this grass. And again, it needs to be slightly lighter than this in value, and then we need more warmth than that. So I'll just grab some more cad yellow. And maybe this is a good place to start with that. All right. A lot more thinner, so I can wash this in here. This is a very muted under color. And in comparison to what's happening, the majority of this, what's happening in the distance, this is pretty, value-wise, this is still really dark, but that's okay because it's just what's underneath the grass. So just gonna go kind of quick here and just lay some of this in here. Looking around this tree. How about from here? And I'm going to get that rusty color and put a little bit of that in here. It's just sort of a reddish, kind of a reddish orange. So I'm going to just take some cad orange and add a little bit of alizarin crimson to it, and maybe a touch of cad yellow. That'll make it more rusty. So, and I'll just kind of lay some of that in here. Let's see here. All right. And then this distant field, if I want to establish kind of what that is going to look like later on, it's a very warm green that that really kind of draws your eye back there. It's very much like this, so it just sort of rests back in this field here. So I'll just kind of cut through that, and then it can go back, sort of back behind there as it rises up. And then behind this tree here, I'll do one more thing before I go. There's a kind of a blue-green. There's some bushes that were in behind here, and I'll just kind of throw those in. Just kind of were growing up in and around that tree, so. And they stopped right about here just to give you a visual into that distant field. So, and then I think it's a darker value in here. So I don't lose track of it, just drop a little bit of this in here, some of these darker shadow areas, some down under here. All right, so so that's going to be it for today. It's just a start, but you know, I think the good thing about doing this is you're going to kind of get to see kind of how I think through a painting, and how I'm going to work hard to keep a studio painting interesting and not get too tight and everything. So Lynn, you're very welcome. And thank you so much for joining and watching today. And I will make an announcement really soon of when I'm going to pick this up, and it'll kind of depend on what our baseball schedule is for the week. And once I figure that out, I'll pick what evening's going to work really good for doing another live feed. And so thanks so much for hanging out with me today. And man, this hour just like went poof. I can't believe it, how quick it went by. But anyway, hope you enjoy this, and I'll catch you later.